And welcome back, everyone, to Talk of the Town. On the phone right now, State Senator Rob Sampson. Senator Sampson, how have you been?
I am doing great, Steve. You are a little hard to hear, though, I have to admit.
Yeah, well, I've got you turned up in max volume, too, so we're just going to have to speak clearly and give each other an opportunity to speak as we are talking. So the Hartford City Council has an interesting suggestion on how we deal with this uptick in coronavirus cases. What was their idea?
No kidding. Interesting is an understatement. They have multiple ideas, actually. The first thing they want to do is they want to have another complete lockdown. And then they want to use the rainy day fund to distribute checks to citizens across the state. And then one of the things I thought that was most interesting about that article that most people did not catch was the idea that the governor should be negotiating with the business community in the state to determine how the business community should continue to pay their employees who are not working. I'm just shocked by the level at which the Hartford City Council thinks that the state government should have the power to interfere with the lives of its citizens on such a grand scale.
Well, there's so much wrong with this whole idea. I mean, you can say that maybe we need to kind of limit interactions because of this, because it is such a dangerous disease. But this idea that we can take the entire rainy day fund in the face of what we're dealing with when it comes to the economy in the state of Connecticut and the ever-growing budget deficits and just pay people that money. Look, I'm all about giving people their tax dollars back. Don't get me wrong. But that was there for a reason. And where do they think that money is going to come from when it's gone?
Right, I completely agree. I have no problem. If you want to return the rainy day fund to the taxpayers, I will sign up right now. But they don't want to do that, really. What they want to do is they want to find a way to expand government. That's all they ever want to do. The state government is in full function today, as it has been throughout the entire pandemic. The Hartford City Council, by the way, are the recipients of millions and millions of taxpayer dollars from communities all across the state. Just in 2017, a major part of the state budget was a program that gives them $550 million to prop up their mismanaged city government. The idea that they know better on how to run the state than individual citizens knowing how to take care of their own households and pocketbooks is ludicrous to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they're exactly the people that we should be taking fiscal advice from. It just makes no sense. Now, interestingly enough, they also pointed out that state employees should still be paid, which, got to give them credit, they are consistent.
Right. Yeah, Steve, I mean, it's something that has concerned me since the beginning of this. And not just, state employees, but municipal government is also ticking along as normal. And you and me and our fellow citizens are all going to be expected to make not only the usual, sales tax payments and the payments on our, electric bill and all those things, but we're going to be expected to pay our full property taxes. In some cases, there might be some sort of deferment. But at the end of the day, no one's reducing the state or town budgets to reflect the reduction in need or services, and the taxpayers are going to end up having to foot the bill. And I just think it's completely unfair. I think that these government officials, both on the state and local level, ought to be paying attention to the fact that their taxpayers do not have the means that they normally have.
And the other really amazing aspect of this, and I was talking about this in the previous hour, Metro North is still running. I mean, they've cut back a little bit on some of their service, but for the most part, they're still running trains dead empty from New Haven to New York and back. Why are they doing that if they can't, even when they're running full, afford to pay for the cost of Metro North? Now you've got nobody riding the trains at all, but there's no expectation of any sort of reduction in service there. We just have to keep those trains running.
Yep, you're absolutely right. It's happening all across our state government. It's happening everywhere. I mean, they need to justify their own existence, and it seems like there's very little thought given to the idea that someone's got to continue paying for these things, even though our economy is shrinking each day that the government response to COVID continues. Yeah. By the way, that's an interesting point, which is that people keep referring to the damage being done by the pandemic. And I would just like to clarify that every time I hear someone say it and point out that it's not the damage being done by the pandemic. It's the damage being done by the government response to the pandemic.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me that there seems to be no desire whatsoever. We saw it with the governor when it came to that $350 million raise for state employees. That was the one thing that suddenly he was powerless up against. We have these new taxes taking effect for the family medical leave. And as I was referencing earlier, there's also this state retirement plan, another additional 3% tax on low-income workers. And the governor has zero power to do anything about this. I'm fascinated at where the limitations of his executive orders are.
Yeah, it seems to me that they decide what they can and cannot do based on individual whim rather than any respect for the rule of law. Yeah, it's very hard to describe, Steve. This whole experience has been very frustrating. I'm as concerned about the virus and its impact on my neighbors as anyone else is. But I also trust my neighbors that if you provide them the information so that they can make good decisions to protect their public health and their family members, they will do so. And it's worth noting that if Connecticut has done well, which I think is debatable for sure, but if Connecticut has done well as far as managing the virus, the credit needs to be given to the individual citizens that have actually followed the protocols, not the actions of the governor. It was so funny listening to his press conference yesterday. Many of the questions they were asked about what's going to happen in the future, and is the vaccine going to fix things, or what do you expect the peak to be? Is it going to be in January? The answer to every question was, I don't know. I have no idea, but we've done such a great job. It just kills me. It's like you don't even know what was effective or what was not effective, but you're still going to take credit for anything positive that happens.
Well, I've been touched by this particular COVID-19 now, and what I found interesting about it is it kind of goes along with a lot of the stuff that I've been saying over the last couple of months. They're telling us about these protocols. They're telling us wear masks. They're telling us to do all these things and shut businesses down and stay socially distant. And for the most part, from what I've seen, pretty much everybody is following along with those protocols. However, it's then been interesting to see an outbreak in the governor's mansion, Max Reese and others becoming infected by this. I literally followed every single protocol I was asked to follow over the previous weekend, including wearing masks, staying out of public businesses, not going anywhere other than my in-laws. And it was just the four of us for 3 days or 2.5 days in a house. And they're perfectly healthy. They've been tested. Yet both my wife and I have now come down with this. How do you explain that? How do you explain that I did every single thing I've been asked to do that the experts told me we need to do to stop the spread of this virus, and yet we still got infected?
Right. Yeah, Steve, first off, best wishes to you and your wife. I look forward to your full recovery in a quick manner. But I would say that no one knows. I mean, really, that's the bottom line. And I don't believe the government, of all of the entities that exist in our universe, is the one that has the power to prevent a virus from spreading through a society. They just don't have the ability. The scientists talk about, if we could just lock everyone down for 30 days, or it's like that cannot happen. It will not happen, and therefore you should stop trying to treat it as if you're trying to achieve that goal. What you should recognize is that the virus is going to continue to spread. And I don't know. I've been doing a lot of studying of different, countries and how they've, handled this situation differently than us. And Sweden seems to have made the right move. Sweden, they made this decision that they were going to identify who was truly susceptible and at risk, and they did everything in their power to protect that population. And for everyone else, considering that it's a very, very survivable thing for the vast majority of people, they figured, you know what, let it go through the society. Most people will get it. It will leave them quickly, and we will build up our herd immunity, and therefore our society will be protected. And it seems to me that that has worked. What we're doing here is kind of letting people back into exposure to the virus in dribs and drabs periodically, and I just think that prolongs the existence of the virus, and I don't know that it's going to stop people from getting it. You might not get it today or next week because of this, but you're going to get it someday.
And this idea that, it's a death sentence. I've been talking with people about this for a couple of weeks now. And there was even an article in a newspaper I read yesterday where it starts out with, COVID-19 survivors. Like, they're making this out to be like, if you get this, you're one of the few that's going to survive if you survive. And that's the absolute opposite is the case. The mortality rate, the more we're learning about this and the better we're getting at treating this and the better we're understanding this the mechanism of this, the mortality rate is astronomically low. Yet we talk about people who survived this as, as survivors, It's like, no, we don't talk about people who survived the cold. We don't talk about people who survived the flu. Why do we talk about people who survived this, which has as lower a mortality rate than both the cold and the flu?
Right. Yeah. I mean, the reason, which is that this is a very effective means of making public policy. You have a society that is completely scared and looking for help and answers from their government. And, the people that are in power in our state and across the country, they're more than happy to interject and come up with solutions for people. Not solutions that I would choose, but I mean, that's the reason why it's being blown out of proportion for sure.
Well, I find it fascinating that the Hartford City Council has taken it upon themselves to try to be a part of the solution for the rest of the state of Connecticut. I don't remember anyone else in the state of Connecticut having a voice in who sits on the Hartford City Council. They're free to have their opinion, but it's this idea that they can direct the state government to spend the entire rainy day fund to pay people to not work because that's the solution. Just everyone stay home and lock down and in fear. And it to me, as you said, you've been reading a lot of studies on this, and I look back at history when we've had situations like this. We are just flouting all of the science that we used to know and just trying to figure out how we can keep this virus from affecting anybody, and that's an impossibility.
No, I hear you, Steve. And as far as the Hartford City Council, I mean, I wouldn't normally respond to some sort of release that they put out, except that they were essentially telling the state government what to do. And there's kind of an unwritten law that local government handles local government and state government handles state government, and we don't tell each other what to do.
Yeah,
but
sounds kind of normal to me.
That I read their press release, it just made my blood boil, and it just kind of proves to me everything that is wrong with the way they run that city and how the Democrat Party is viewing this, health issue and the way government should operate as a result. They're completely wrong. They don't even understand the concept of this country, which is that the people are individual free citizens and that the government's role should be limited to advising them what the heck is going on so they can make their own choices. The government shouldn't have the determination ultimately to decide what businesses stay open or what businesses must be closed or which ones are essential or not. That's a bunch of nonsense. What's essential is what you and I choose to be essential because we're free people, Steve, and we should make those choices. No one is telling anyone that they have to go patronize someone's business or someone's restaurant. It should be personal choice. If I want to open my business and take the chance and try and provide the proper protocols for my customers, I can do that. And my customers can make a choice on whether or not they feel it's safe to come there. No one is doing anything against their will in a free society, except we don't have a free society, apparently, because the government has decided that they're going to decide what our will is.
Well, I always find it interesting when they get to declare what an emergency is, and then all of a sudden that gives them all sorts of extra special powers because, hey, it's an emergency. What can we do? It's like nice little catch-22 you created for yourself there. Well,
right.
Senator, I appreciate
course,
you
no
speaking out on this
happens,
because I think there's
if the situation worsens, it's more reason for them to impose even more regulations and requirements. And if the situation gets better, they take credit for it, whether it was their actions that resulted in that better situation or not.
Well, I know you'd be interested in reading the comments of Representative Rosa DeLauro as she's been appointed the chair of the Appropriations Committee. I'm not sure if you read that article, and I'm not going to get into it with you. We don't have enough time, but her remarks regarding her opinion of what government is to people should send a chill down every single person's spine in this country. And if you get a chance, I'd suggest you go look at it. I'm sure you'll think very much the same way about her comments. So.
Yeah, I haven't read the article, Steve, but I am a little bit. I'm aware of what she had said and what she thinks of the role of government. And I think that's a large problem with our society. Is I think that people are actually more and more beginning to think that is the role of our government. It's not supposed to be a give and take, though. It's not supposed to be the government is doing something for you. The government exists as a priority to protect our individual freedom. And define boundaries for rule of law and public safety and law enforcement, that kind of thing. And that really should be the extent of it in a free society.
It'll be a great day if we ever get back to that mindset when it comes to what role government should be playing in our lives. But Senator Sampson, I want to thank you very much for your comments here and very much for speaking out against the comments of the Hartford City Council. I think, again, it does expose greatly the difference in ideology and what, again, the role of government should be in people's lives. And it's always fascinating to see the veil slip away. And I'm glad you pointed this out so that we could have this conversation.
Excellent. It's my pleasure, Steve. Thank you also for being on the radio each day and doing your part to remind people of the value of a free society. And get well soon. We need you healthy.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. You have a great afternoon. Take care.
You too. Take it easy. You too. Take it easy. You too. Take it easy. You too. Take it easy.